My name's Kerry Boffey, and I'm here with Peter Nelson, and we are talking about a very hot topic at the moment. It's this time of year, and we often have a debate, don't we, Peter, on self-assessment. Should you upload it to the Ofsted portal or not? Now, we've got lots of ideas on this, and Peter and I don't always agree. So, Peter, your thoughts on self-assessment? Do they need a self-assessment? How important is it? And should it be uploaded to Ofsted?
Well, if you read the information that comes out of Ofsted, it clearly states it's up to you whether or not you do a self-assessment report. But what I think is really, really important is that you need to be able to demonstrate that you have rigorous quality assurance processes in place. So the custom and practice, the traditional way of doing that is through producing a self-assessment report and linked to that a quality improvement plan. That is kind of the way that most organizations do it. The second question is whether or not your self-assessment report should be mapped against the new toolkit or any other device that you may use, for example, Investors in People, Business Excellence Model. Universities have various systems that they use. That is less critical to follow the Ofsted model. The most important thing is to use a model that works for you. And then the third question is, once you've produced a self-assessment report, whether or not you should volunteer that to Ofsted on an annual basis. My personal preference is that it is a good idea, once you have your self-assessment report written, to submit that each year to the email address that's provided in the annual communication from Ofsted, so that inspectors behind the scenes have sight of your self-assessment report. And I know you disagree with me on that one.
Not entirely, actually, Peter. I think, as you know full well, I 100% agree that providers need to be able to self-evaluate their provision. They need to take a critical look at what they do, and therefore, from using that as a springboard to be able to quality improve moving forward. And whatever vehicle they use is entirely up to them. My point would be, why not reference it to the EIF? If that's what you're going to be measured against, it makes absolute sense to use that as your basics to look at it against, to say, well, where are we now? And certainly the secure fit model, I think, has made that even more important, because where there was a best fit model previously in the old framework, there was more opportunity for you to kind of have a look at that. Well, that's what we do in the majority of cases. That secure fit model changes that, and it's very specific. Do you meet every single criteria? And we know Ofsted say it's not a checklist. However, from a provider's point of view, it absolutely can be used as a checklist to say, do we have evidence to support this? So I'm not opposed to self-assessment at all, and I think it's really important that that self-evaluation is self-critical. We've also got a FIN template, which follows the EIF, which I know lots of members have used and said that they really enjoy using the template. But again, that's a Word document that they can edit. I suppose the point where I come to you with a slightly different angle is the uploading it to the Ofsted portal. And I wouldn't say don't. I would say, what's right for you as a provider? Now, the only reason you might not is potentially if you're on a real quality improvement journey and actually you don't want that line in the sand that says this is where we were. You want to be able to have a look at that on a regular basis, because Ofsted may well look at that before they come in. So it's not that I'm totally anti it. It's more about, it shouldn't be an automatic thing that you think you have to do. It's more of a, what's right for us, what works for us, what do we need from that whole process? Because I think one of the things that what we both totally agree on, the report is merely the document that records it. We both feel, I know from working with you very closely, we both feel that the value of the self-assessment process is incredible. It's that bringing people together, getting their opinions, looking at the feedback and making that evaluative judgment across the provision.
Yeah, I think the other point to bear in mind is that a self-assessment report is a bit like an MOT test. It's valid on the day it's published, effectively. So if you've got a set of grades and you publish those set of grades, that they potentially relate to where you think you are probably at the end of an academic year. Now, if you're inspected, let's say 6 months later, so it's sort of February, March, April of the following year, there is every excuse or reason to update your self-assessment report with just a sort of position statement. So if you have submitted a report and it's 6 months has gone by and things have changed significantly, then you're quite within your right to, all of a sudden your inspection goes live, to submit a position statement, which just kind of updates inspectors on where you think you are now.
And that's something that I know both of us do agree on wholeheartedly, and that is that position statements are extremely valuable. And I would recommend that a position statement is no more than 2 sides of A4.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be very specific about what key messages you want to put in it. Use it to help you set the context of your learners, because those of you who recently heard Ofsted speaking, they have really emphasized that from starting point, so achievement from their starting point. So your context of the types of learners that you're working with is going to be critical and going to help you explain that data further down the line. So I think, Peter, in conclusion, we've both agreed that we both value the self-assessment process. We both value the report, which should be succinct and not endless pages of waffle. We both feel that there's value in the position statement. I think you're still a great believer in, yes, upload your self-assessment, and I'm still jury's out. Depends, is that the right thing for you to do?
One other aspect, which is to grade or not to grade,
Oh,
or
yes.
to agree your judgments or not to agree your judgments. And again, on this one, you don't have to formally state where you believe you are on the scale, on the 5-point scale. But if you don't, I think the likelihood is that inspectors will say, so where do you think you are against this particular scale? So my inclination would be you might just as well define where you think you are in terms of those judgments as part of the self-assessment report process. And you can redefine those if 6 months later you submit a position statement. You can redefine how things have changed in that position statement. But if you don't set grades, then inspectors will say, where do you think you are? Because part and parcel of the process is really to evaluate how good you are at judging where you are on the scale, and inspectors will do that.
I agree, Peter. I think that that understanding of where you are is really important. I think that you can be more flexible as a provider, and where you can say that actually we meet the criteria for expected standards. However, we have aspects that are strong, so you can be a little bit more selective. You don't have to literally meet all that criteria. I still think you could raise the bar a little bit by saying we are working towards strong, or we've got elements of strong, or if you believe you're strong, and you can say we have elements that we believe are exceptional. And that's where you can push the boundaries a little bit. So you don't have to follow that secure fit model when you're self-assessing. You can be a little bit more holistic to say, actually, we have got certain aspects which are strong or even exceptional. So that's where I would suggest, and again, it's what suits you and where you believe your provision is going to in the future. Not but certainly in the position statement, it's like nowcasting. It's this is where we are now, and this is where we're going.
Yep.
Okay, so just some food for thought. I think it's important that not everyone agrees. Every provider is different, and every decision needs to be different. And you need to think carefully about what we do, what's right for us. But I hope you found our thoughts interesting.